Virtual summits are the most powerful online marketing tool available to grow your list, launch your platform, make more money, and create an impact in the world, even if you're just getting started. If you are ready to take your summit to the next level, then tune into the Virtual Summit podcast with Dr. Mark T. Wade.
Hi, I'm Dr. Mark T. Wade, founder of Virtual Summit Software and creator of the One Day Summit Formula. And I'm on a mission to help you, the summit host, get your summit out to the world in a powerful and impactful way. So let's get started. Hey, Summit host, Dr. Mark T. Wade here, founder of Virtual Summit Software and your host on the Virtual Summit Podcast. I am super excited for today's episode. We got Nick Unsworth, the CEO of Life on Fire, and he helps you love what you do for work and relentlessly pursue your passions. He sold a business by the age of 30 and coached over 2,500 people, including Damon John and Mark Devine from NavySeals.com. Nick, we are so fortunate to have you here with us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. Pumped to be here.
We are going to have some fun. We are going to be talking about Nick's virtual summit, which absolutely crushed it. It was kind of the set the path or the way for a lot of us in the virtual summit world. And it ranks still, a lot of the information Nick has still ranks at the top of everything, which is pretty impressive. So I'm looking forward to getting into your brain here. Now, before we jump into that though, Nick, why don't you just tell our summit host just a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah. So Nick Unsworth, I live out in San Diego, and company's called Life on Fire. And for me, just a quick high level fast track story is ever since I was a little kid, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I had always dreamed of like time freedom, financial freedom. And I don't know about y'all listening, but for me, when I became an entrepreneur from 18 years old on, it was a really brutal struggle. And you hear this on millions of books and podcasts and things, but I just tried so many different things. I tried to fast track my path. And so that led me to network marketing. It led me to real estate, led me to, online, all these different businesses. And I just spent so much money investing in courses, and it helped, but it's like my big story is that I invested in a mentor, and I got my first coach, and that was in 2010. And I was in a tremendous amount of debt. I was at the end of my rope, financially, physically, mentally, emotionally, and I found a way to borrow money, and I hired my first mentor. And he was the right person. He knew NLP, knew mindset, and knew online marketing. And and basically this guy changed everything for me in my life. I came back from a mastermind event in 2010, and I came back and made a decision that I'm going to build and sell a company in 2 years. And it's like, after that, declaration, I tattooed that goal in my chest, and I'm like, here we go. And it's crazy, man. Like, so many things, obviously there was a lot of work in between, but fast forward, that happened. And I had an agency doing Facebook marketing and advertising, and the timing was really good. In 2010, no one knew what they were doing on Facebook for ads. And I taught myself the industry, the business. I got high-level clients. In this technique, I call the anchor client strategy. It ties in perfectly with virtual summits. And it's, you just want to go out and get that one influential person on your summit, or that one influential client. In my case, it was Eben Pagan, and then Frank Kern, and then I worked with Damon John from Shark Tank. And as soon as they were my client on a very unique thing like Facebook ads, where I had some expertise and their team didn't have as much at the time, and it's like that springboarded me, because I would share their testimonial, I would run ads, and it was like, well, they didn't know who the heck I was, but they knew those people. And so what happened is I built and sold that company. And then afterwards I said to myself, it took me 10 years. It actually took 12 years, from 18 until 30, to do what my dreams were, to build and sell a company. And throughout the whole process, I was always trying to figure out what my purpose was and what my legacy was, and like, what the heck am I really here for? And through that journey, I realized that my purpose is helping other people find theirs. And now what I say is my legacy is building yours. And so now I'm a coach. And what I find enjoyment and satisfaction is the things that I've learned over 12 years building and selling a company and learning a lot about marketing is that I do that with other clients. And virtual summits is one thing that that I did really well, and I've helped a lot of clients to do them really well. And so hanging out with, the doc over here and enjoying a nice meal, and it was like, man, we got a lot in common. So pumped to be here and share.
It's time to up-level your summit game and interview like a pro. No one wants to listen to 20 to 30 hours of boring interviews. The summit interview is one of the most important aspects of your summit. And now you can get some free training over at interviewlikeapro.com. That's interviewlikeapro.com. Your audience will thank you and your speakers will love you. Let's commit to no more boring interviews. It's time to interview with impact. Well, we are extremely glad to have you, and that was an excellent meal. Nick's talking about a time we were together in San Diego. I was speaking at Mindshare. Many of you listening here have heard me talk about that, and we had an amazing dinner with some other really awesome influencers as well, Pete Vargas, Shanda Sumner, for a few. So let's jump into the summit now, and we're gonna come back to some of the kind of techniques and strategies that you use even with some of your clients. But why don't you walk us through what the summit was, kind of how it did, because it did very well for you, and like what were some of the specifics of it? How many days? How many speakers? What was your mindset? What was your goal? And then how did it do?
Yeah, so I went pretty big with it. So I decided to turn it into like a pretty big initiative, pretty big launch. And I said, all right, as I started Life on Fire, I wanted to just leapfrog, have quantum leap growth like a slingshot, just come out of the gate fast. And it was like, if I'm going to coach people, and this is what my new, business is going to be, I don't want to spend time convincing people. I don't want to feel like I'm ever selling people. And I want to come from a place of giving. I want to give with content. And that's what I like about the virtual summit is it's a give for the most part. And so I'm like, I want my brand to come out of the gate and be so epic that I have more clients than I could ever, handle, and be in demand from the very beginning. And so that's where I decided to do the virtual summit. And the first thing that I did was, I picked the date, and this is what I always tell any client is like, even before you have your first speaker, even before you have the title, even before you have anything, it's like you pick a date far enough in advance that you can do an excellent job getting it together. It's not too far out where you're just, going to waste time, but pick that date as to when it's going to launch. And I started telling people, and I started telling people that I'm going to host, the biggest virtual summit the world's ever seen. And I put the date out there. And then of course people get curious. Well, when it, what is it and who's going to be on it? And some people then would even have interest. Why I want to be on it. And I said, I'm going to keep it real simple. I want to brand my company. So I'm going to call it the Life on Fire Virtual Summit. And I started with Gary Vaynerchuk, and I had done a deal with him where he spoke at one of our events. So I was able to kind of tie that in together and negotiate that in. So, but once I got Gary, it was like everyone else wanted to be a part of it. They wanted to have their face on the same ticket. And I think it's a very important strategy. I do it for live events. I've done it for, the virtual summit. And in a lot of ways, I did it with the business that I sold is get the anchor, you know what I mean? And find a way to add value. And so people are like, well, how did you add value for Gary Vaynerchuk? In that case, I bought books when he had Jab, 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 Right Hook coming out. And that was a very unique point where he was interested in being on podcasts. He wanted to sell books, and every human being has a hot button, and people are never, quote, too big. We get very status oriented as an entrepreneur, very comparison-itis, like, oh my gosh, this person has all these followers. At the end of the day, we're all human beings. And if you can appeal to them and be cool and give to them in a way that's going to add value, you can do business with them. And the same thing is, with Damon John from Shark Tank, he wasn't on the summit, but he's a person that I did business with. It's the same concept where I didn't go to him and just, hey, would you be on my summit? Instead, I came to him with a total give. It was like, Damon, if I could have me and my team look over the shoulder of your ad account for one of the companies that you purchase or own or work with, my goal is to double your return on investment on your ads. Give me a month. And I'm doing it just as a give. And I'll never forget it, man. He looks at me, shakes my hand, and says, thank you. Thank you. He says, everyone tries to pitch me, right? He's on Shark Tank. He's like, everyone comes up and they think that they've got this free ticket to pitch him as fast as he's like in the elevator, in the bathroom, like they pitch him everywhere. And he goes, this is the same hustle that I had when I started FUBU. I gave. He would take $5,000 of FUBU gear and give it out at like hip hop concerts. And so at the end of the day, when you're going to get your anchor speaker, the one that's going to make this thing so successful, because if you have one keynote that's just a big time boss, everything else gets easy. So if you're going to go for it, go big, and don't just say, hey, would you be on my summit? Come up with a way to add true legitimate value for them. If you can, pay them for an interview, because then it's at least you're adding some value with that. If you can donate to their charity, can you, if you're a graphic designer, can you do their website? Can you, buy their books? Like do something and know enough about them to figure it out. Don't be the person that says, hey, Dr. Mark, I want to add value to you. Can you tell me how I add value to you? It puts the burden on the wrong person. It's your burden to figure that out. And but once you get the anchor, in my case, it was Gary Vaynerchuk. It was like as soon as I put that out there, everyone and their grandmother, they wanted to be a part of it. They want to be on it. And so I just kind of went one by one, and it was like, all right, so I'm going to get Brian Tracy, Adam Braun from Pencils of Promise, John Lee Dumas, Lewis Howes. We had all these different influencers. And it was, one thing that I did was I went pretty big with it. I was so excited. I didn't really want to say no to some big timers. So it ended up being like over 20 people. And, so I had the set list that was really great. And then I created this thing called the Business on Fire Bundle. And the Business on Fire Bundle was, they opt in to get access to the content. We chose to deliver the content live. And that really built community really, really well, because people were pumped. We're all in a Facebook group and delivering it live, and it felt like that they were a part of something where I think I've been a part of I've spoken on a lot of virtual summits, and it's like, if they're just kind of opt in and, you kind of just end up getting a whole bunch of emails and, it's kind of video content. I don't know. I think that in this market, there's a lot of people that think that that's a rather poor experience. Like they're just like, it's just whatever. I looked at it and it was like, I really want to benefit the people that are coming on board this. And so when I created this Business on Fire bundle, when I went back to people to be an affiliate, because the other thing is people get annoyed, like, okay, A, you're asking me to be on your summit, and B, you want me to promote you in the hope of getting enough opt-ins for it to make sense. People kind of don't really believe that anymore. It's just different. So, and I think that this is going to be really fresh for a lot of people listening, because you can make this different that doesn't have that stigma. And you can say, no, I'm going to share in the profits with you. So when I created the Business on Fire bundle, people got to contribute their product to this bundle. And then because that they were in the bundle and therefore they were in the fulfillment, that they got access to the buyer's list. And this to me then, and still is today, a freaking bomb strategy, because it takes everything about virtual summits and it completely changes the whole game. Because it's not about, hey, you scratch my back and promote and you're going to get maybe opt-ins later with your quote freebie. This is no, we're all going to promote into this thing. And, whether you promote a little or a lot, you're going to get a buyer's list of like 500 people or 1,000 people. And a buyer's list, there's some people that have like studies on this, but a buyer's list is worth 100 times more than an email list. And so at the end of the day, we, as all of us entrepreneurs, we want buyers. We don't want just emails, because I don't know about you, but emails are a pain in the butt to stay in touch with. They cost money with Infusionsoft. Deliverability stinks. We want buyers. We want people that really are engaged, that are going to do something with the content that you have, because who cares about, we have platforms like podcasts to get free content out and to get our heart and message out there. So we want buyers. So the Business on Fire bundle, the only people in that bundle were people that I knew and were committed to promoting it. So, for example, John Lee Dumas, hey man, would you be in this bundle? Well, why would I want to be in the bundle? Well, you're going to get access to the buyers list. So, dude, I'm doing all the work. All you got to do is show up on an interview, flip in talking to a microphone, and you're going to get a fat buyers list. And we're going to give you a course, like a legitimate course. So that was the first thing, because people like to hear about money. I thought this was very interesting for me. My heart was, I'm going to put a cause behind this, and everyone's going to want to do it for the cause. And then the money would be secondary. What I realized, unfortunately, is that the money was primary. The cause was an afterthought. Not for me, but so I'll get to that in a second. So here's the bundle. And so I only had about 5 people in the bundle, because he didn't want to make it too ridiculous with products and stuff and too confusing. So it was like Brian Tracy and me and John Lee Dumas, and I had a couple other people. And so this thing was only $97. And it's like, and then it went up to $197. So there was urgency of when they had to buy it. And so everyone that opted in, it was like, cool, you're going to get access to this live content. And then if you get the bundle, you're going to get access to the replays, and you're going to get access to basically $5,000 worth of products for $97. And then it went up to like $197. So that whole process generated revenue, generated a buyer's list. And what I chose to do too is if you're in the bundle, it was kind of like you're almost like a partner with me. Like, you got to commit to doing at least 3 emails. Like, you've got to, you got to send like 1,000 opt-ins. You know what I mean? Like, this has got to be legit. If you're going to be in the bundle, we need legit, not just a maybe. Everybody else, what happened is, because I could count on the bundle promoters, and the bundle promoters were actually benefiting with the buyers list, then I didn't have to haggle everybody else to promote. I gave them an opportunity to promote as an affiliate, and said, hey, you can get, percentage to share this, but I didn't need to haggle them. People more kind of wanted to. Now, the other kicker to this that I haven't mentioned yet, which was actually a big part of my intention of doing this, was to raise money to build a school in Guatemala for Pencils of Promise. And so this, to me, created, it was more of a cause than just getting out good content. But at the end of the day, in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to personally spend a bunch of money in ads, and I'm going to put my face next to a lot of influencers on these ads, and it's going to build my brand, which will be great. And then it will lead to coaching clients, which it did. The other thing is that I knew that when you run ads, so if I paint a picture of, if I take an ad with my face and I run it on Facebook, it might cost $5 to get someone to enter their email for whatever I'm giving away. But if I take that same picture of my head and I put it right next to Gary Vaynerchuk and target Gary's audience, that same, situation will only be $1, right? Like, the cost savings is radical. It's crazy. And John Lee Dumas, being as handsome as he is, and people love to call us the Fire Twins, his ad was crazy. I was getting leads for 67 cents targeting his audience. His audience loves him. And it's a picture of him and a picture of me, and I target his fans and say, opt in, going to be interviewing John live. Get your questions answered live on the Life on Fire Virtual Summit. And, if you're choosing people to speak on your summit that have an audience on Facebook or Instagram, then even if people stunk at promoting your summit, you have an asset that you can now market to and control your own destiny. So from an advertising perspective, it was freaking incredible. Now, the other piece, like I was saying with the school, is I was so moved. I did a trip to Honduras, and I went to a very rough area of Honduras. It was a very small nonprofit, just one van of us, going out there. As a guy that worked for me when I sold my business, and I went to Honduras, and I'll never forget the situation. It was a legitimate prison with, huge, 25-foot walls with barbed wire and guard towers and guys with AK-47s. And I'm like, this is insane. And went to look at this prison, but it was actually an orphanage, and all the gates and barbed wire and security was to keep the kids in. And, they were being abused in there. It was just awful living conditions. And so when I went on this trip, I got to experience the reality of how these kids were being, abused and living. And then this nonprofit, they would take and rescue little girls and adopt them and put about 15 to 20 in a house and literally rehabilitate them with love. Just love.
It's time to up-level your summit game and interview like a pro. No one wants to listen to 20 to 30 hours of boring interviews. The summit interview is one of the most important aspects of your summit. And now you can get some free training over at interviewlikeapro.com. That's interviewlikeapro.com. Your audience will thank you and your speakers will love you. Let's commit to no more boring interviews. It's time to interview with impact.
And then I got to go to the house and spend a couple days with them and got to do Easter with them. And it was like, it's a Christian organization. And my mind's blown, like the impact that they're making and, how much different and it was one of those experiences where, it just kind of changes everything about you, like why you're doing what you're doing, what's all this for, and so from that, I knew I wanted to do something about it. And Pencils of Promise is a much bigger organization, similar kind of mission, but it was on the same lines. And so I ended up getting involved with them, and they do a thing where for $25,000 you can build a school and go visit and go like literally physically, mix cement and, and bang nails and like be a part of it. And I was just super inspired by what Adam Braun had built, and he built like a really huge nonprofit, and he was on the summit. So I'm like, we're going to build a school through this thing, and we're going to take a percentage of all that Business on Fire bundle, and it's going to go to building the school. So now we've got epic virtual summit with all these cool people on it. We've got, 5 people, one being myself, so 4 other people committed to promoting it because they're getting the buyers list, and there's a little tiny bit of commission. And we're going to just, out of the goodness of our hearts, like promote the crap out of this thing and build a school for kids in need, in Guatemala. And it was a little bit sad that people didn't really care that much about the school besides me and John and, some of the speakers, but Adam Brown, of course. But I was a little surprised. I thought that people would care more, but people had a lot to say. Why don't you build a school in the States? It was like a little bit weird, but some of that stuff ends up being good for the algorithm on Facebook with comments and ads. But at the end of the day, the outcome of this whole thing is this was a springboard for my personal brand for Life on Fire. It's led to, at least a dozen coaching clients, which is multiple 6 figures in revenue. And, I can't even put a dollar amount on the brand build from this, but it was huge. Email list wise, over 15,000 people just from the promotion of it, but also just from running ads to it whenever we want. And, fast forward from that, we're able to fundraise enough money to build a school. We fell a few $1,000s short, I don't think it was like $10,000 short. I kicked in a little bit more. And then we had this really cool guy, Cole Hatter. He just seen all that was going on. He's like, where are you at? And I'm like, well, we're about 8,000 away. And he's like, no problem. Cuts a check. He's so inspired by the whole thing that happened. And it was really special. And then we got to go to Guatemala and like actually be a part of that process, man. And like build the school and have all the pictures and everything from it. So it was just really special in that regard. And then from that, man, I've been taking that content and slicing it up. It's now finding its way into like little Instagram videos. It's like that content it lives on. And dude, it's all over YouTube. I get hit up by people like, hey man, you're ranking for all these virtual summit terms. And, and that was from a while ago. So, it's like content is king or queen, and it always will be. And I'm still blown away that it's still living, and it's still benefiting. So super cool.
Yeah, and I can definitely vouch for that. Obviously, being in the virtual summit world, I've definitely looked up virtual summits on a lot of places, and your stuff always pops up on YouTube. It's still at the top there. I have a goal to beat it out at some point, but right now you're still crushing it. So this is great. Like, thank you for painting the picture of that. I want to go deep on a couple questions here. So first off, I love that Fire Twins. I can't wait to tell JLD I know his new nickname. But so a couple questions. When you were so you were talking about reaching out to the influencers and giving, which I completely agree with. I think that's one of the best ways of doing it. Find a way to support and promote. I also love the concept you're talking about. We call it expert leveraging. You're leveraging the expertise, the credibility, the relationships of the speakers. So when you were saying that you reach out for a give, can you help our audience, because some of them are on the newer side? Like, what would you do if you had an influencer that maybe you don't know personally? What would kind of be your process of going to find out? Because I agree with you. You don't want to reach out and say, hey, how can I help you? So what would be your kind of ninja go-to?
So one of the best things is how I got Eben Pagan, Frank Kern as clients, is be their customer. It's a totally different ballgame. It's like, I'm an outsider and I haven't taken the time to know what you really do, and I'm going to come at you with a big ask, versus, get on the inside, buy their book. If they have an online course, buy their course, because almost a lot of people these days, you can pay, and we're not talking, it doesn't even have to be expensive, but you know what I mean? Like, a lot of people have courses these days, and a lot of people have, an upsell for like a community, or where it's like you could be in someone's world and be vocal and get to know that person way easier than ever before in the history of being an entrepreneur. You know what I mean? Like, we have access and we can find people like easier than ever before. So that is definitely a big one, is if you can get in and just be somebody's customer, because when you come from a place of, hey, so I'm one of your biggest fans and I'm a customer of XYZ program, and I would love to share you with my audience. Now, that may not be a give, but it's a much cooler way than just coming from the outside. And if you're in that community, something as simple as just being the person that engages in the Facebook group. And, I love people like that in our community. Like, people, like, I'm a busy dude, and someone's in our community and they're the one interacting and supporting, and it's obvious. You know what I mean? Like, it's obvious when someone's doing that, and you notice it. Even super high level people will notice it. And I've had people like that come back and be like, hey, I haven't been able to get into the coaching program yet, or, you know what I mean? Like, if they haven't invested that kind of money to get close to me in that way. But even if it was like a super low ticket program, but if they're engaging and adding value from a community standpoint, that's an easy way. And they're a customer, and it's like, I'm going to say yes all day for that, because they've truly given to me. You could also, if you come at it from a different place of, let's just say if they have a book coming out or a movie coming out, those are times when people, the reason why celebrities are on TV is often not just because they're cool, it's because usually they have something coming up. You know what I mean? Like, it's a book, it's a movie. And so think about that in the market and say, hey, I want to buy some of your books, or I want to get you in front of my audience for your upcoming promotion. And if you need to, be bold and say, I can commit to this piece of content getting 100,000 views. Because if you need to, you just run ads to it, and it doesn't cost that much money to get a lot of views, So I've done that before, where it's like, hey, you've got this thing coming out. I'd like to commit to at least 100,000 views in our community. I'm going to email about this thing. I'm going to be running ads about it. So that is a way of leveraging traffic, and I'm good at marketing, so that's an angle that I use. But outside of that, be thinking about just what is your gifting? If you're good at finding virtual assistants, if you're a web designer, if you're a marketer, it's like, how can you leverage something that or it could also be introductions. One of the great things is when you connect people with other people, there's there's, and you're sandwiched in the middle of that, there's usually people will respect you and like you and want to hang out with you more. The other big thing, and I just did this with Tony and Dean Graziosi and Tony Robbins, is make other people money. So here's a huge tip is, as an affiliate, right around a little bit before the virtual summit, people would do these big launches, right? Oh, I got a big launch coming up. Well, I was the yes man. Okay, cool. They'd have a launch coming up, and I would make a bonus and say, anyone that buys their product, buy it through me, and I'll give you an iPad. I didn't have a name. I didn't have my own products. I didn't have my own courses, right? This is early. This is back again in 2010. So when these gurus would do a launch, I would have a bonus of a physical product. And I would just run ads and target their fans. And I would be the top 5 affiliate for Dan Kennedy. God bless him. He just passed away. And then for Frank Kern, Brendan Burchard, John Assaraf, all these different people. And I made a lot of friends. You make somebody money and they will take your call. They will love you. Put it in perspective. Fast forward. I just did this again with my partner, Brian Delaney. And Tony Robbins had a big launch coming up. And I'm like, I love Tony Robbins. Well, let's promote it and go all in. So we created a whole huge bonus package, ran ads to it, made Tony and Dean Graziosi, we sold 500 plus units, over 500, made the guys over $1 million in 2 weeks. And then I find myself in Vegas at this affiliate party being hugged by Tony Robbins as he thanks me. Like, what, what the heck? That's crazy. And then they're flying us out to Fiji, and I'm going to get to stay in the dude's resort and like mastermind with the guy. So and you know what's crazy? I was at one of our own events. It was 2 years ago. And I was saying on stage, I'm going to do business with Tony Robbins. I don't know how, but I'm like, this is the power of your spoken word. This is the power of a declaration. And, I didn't know how it was going to happen, but guess what? That same process, I stood on a stage, it was about 5 years ago. And I told people that I was going to do business with Damon John from Shark Tank. And I'll never forget telling the whole crowd, I'm like, this is how a declaration works. You speak it out. Somebody here is going to take notes. And then when he's on our stage at some point in the future and he's keynoting, like someone's going to be like, I was there that day, and if all of that happened, all of that came true. And so it's really cool that even if someone says no, or they just flat out ignore you, because your worst case scenario is a no. Your second worst case scenario is they just ignore you. But like, be bold with who you would love to interview, because it doesn't even if it's like your virtual summit comes and goes, and then like they finally say yes later, it's like, dude, just do an interview with that one person and run ads to that one interview. And that alone, that's like a mini virtual summit. It's just an interview. And that alone, that one funnel could fuel a whole business off of one interview.
It's so good. And I loved watching your guys' success with the Tony launch and seeing you up there as well. That's super cool and super inspiring. So as we start to wrap this up, Nick, what about like one maybe top mistake either that you made on your summit or that you've seen some of your coaching clients make that we can help our summit hosts kind of avoid?
Yeah, so I've got a big one. The big mistake was too many speakers. And there's a mindset of like, well, if I just get more speakers, then more people will promote, or if I just have more speakers, then there's more content. And I would describe it like, if you've ever gone to a live event that has like 20, 30 speakers, you walk in, you're excited, even if it's an awesome event. It's just such a mosh pit of content and such a fire hose, and you're starting to hear the same concepts from different people, which could be good because it's different perspectives, but it's like you get conflicting strategies. And it's like in a live event, in-person setting, I've watched people at, there's some events like that in our industry, and I've watched people come out of the room and their brains are so scrambled. There's such mush from so much content that they get home from the event and they're wiped, and then they don't do anything. So I'm an impact guy. I want to like see my clients, your audience, your fans, your client, really do stuff with the content. And I would say that if you can be more of a museum curator and create an experience with the right people, and so that it's got a legit flow to it, like I kind of crafted I love this with in-person events. This is one of my favorite things in life to do, is build the flow of the agenda for a live event so that it creates an outcome that your people want. Same is true for a virtual summit. Start them with, if you're in the entrepreneur space, start them with sessions on clarity. Have it build into clarity and legacy and vision, and then builds into marketing and execution, and bring them through a process as opposed to just a mosh pit of content. And the other thing with too many speakers is I've seen it take people out because the project becomes so big in their mind that people don't fully get started. And that to me is sad as well. It becomes a way for sabotage and avoidance. And it's like, dude, you could do a virtual summit with flipping 3 people. You know what I mean? Like, and get that baby out in 30 days or 45 days. Like, no, I think a sweet spot is probably in that, 5 to 10 range. I know people probably teach a lot of different ways about it, but like, if you have it, in my case, I think I had 25 or 20, maybe even 30 speakers. And it just it was so much to manage. It became the only thing I did for a few months, versus if I could, redo, I would have, kept it to like 10 and kept it like super, super tight, built a nice flow to it.
It's time to up-level your summit game and interview like a pro. No one wants to listen to 20 to 30 hours of boring interviews. The summit interview is one of the most important aspects of your summit. And now you can get some free training over at interviewlikeapro.com. That's interviewlikeapro.com. Your audience will thank you and your speakers will love you. Let's commit to no more boring interviews. It's time to interview with impact. That is such great information. I love that, because we actually teach the 1-day summit, which is 5 to 10 speakers. We also have the, as you can see behind me, our summit storyboard template, which is all about using your summit to tell a story. So you take them from one perspective up. So I feel like we planned that ahead of time, but we didn't. So this just shows you great minds think alike. So this has been absolutely fantastic, Nick. I know you got so much more you could share with us, but I want to respect your time. I know you're a busy man over there. So why don't you let our audience know, because I know they're going to want to follow up with you. They want to see that information on YouTube and everything you're doing over there. Let them know where's the best way to get in touch with you. We'll have everything on the show notes for everybody as well. podcast.virtualsummits.com/059. But why don't you let everybody know where they can follow up with you and any kind of parting piece of wisdom?
Yeah. So let's see. So lifeonfire.com is the website, and we've got some good free resources there. And then on social, just search for Nick Unsworth and let's be friends. Instagram, Nick Unsworth 51. And and so definitely love to connect. And there's some content on our YouTube, which is just Life on Fire TV is the handle. And then parting wisdom or parting thoughts. I would say that if you're in Dr. Mark's environment, community, tribe, and if you're listening to this show, then you're in a community, right? Like you're hearing his content and you're an entrepreneur. And I would just say that make today be the day for anybody that is on the fence of like evaluating, maybe I should do it, maybe I shouldn't. I would just say that there's very little risk to doing a virtual summit. Financially, your risk is time, but you can do it where you can do these fast. And I would just say for anyone that's a fence sitter about doing it, whether it's, going to another level with Mark, with his content or programs, or just doing it in your own strength, no matter what the scenario is, it's like, just get the date out. Like truly, like, if you're listening to this and you're like, that sounds pretty cool. Like, I'm telling you right now that my business was forever changed from a virtual summit. We're talking like millions of dollars that have come in from Life on Fire. More important than that is the people's lives who we've touched and changed. And this content is still living on and it's still benefiting us. And so I would just make today, literally go on social and be like, I'm just making a public declaration. I'm going to do a virtual summit on this day and physically speak that out. And then you'll have to do everything in between. And if you're on this show, I guarantee you have enough resources you can find just from being on this show and get it done, because success loves speed. I'll never forget that first mentor that I was telling you about. One of the first things he said to me was, your success is in direct proportion to how fast you implement. And he said, never forget the speed of implementation is everything. And I've never forgotten that. I move so flippin' fast. I mean, I'll try things, but not everything works, right? You try things and it doesn't work. You try dang it, that one stunk. And then but like virtual, this is content. You will never lose with content. And get this baby out, get it live, get your anchor client, your anchor speaker, and go out and serve the world, and be different. I mean, you heard my bundle. Go put a bundle together with people and go build a school or do something that's going to truly make a difference for people. So
such great.
I kind of jammed as many as I could in there and tried to package it as one, but it was like a big box that kept opening it.
You nailed it, man. No, you gave so much great parting pieces of wisdom, and I appreciate you. I appreciate you so much, Nick. Thank you so much for your time. Everybody listening in, all you Summit hosts, thank you too for spending this time with me and Nick. Again, Dr. Mark T. Wade, founder of Virtual Summit Software. And remember, your message matters. Make sure you check out the show notes over at podcast.virtualsummits.com/059 to get all these amazing goodies that Nick's been talking about. And we'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks for listening. Now don't forget to subscribe and leave a 5-star review on the Virtual Summit podcast. Head over to the show notes to check out all the links and resources from this episode, and be sure to grab your free trial of the Virtual Summit software.
Now, I want to end this episode by saying to all the Summit hosts listening right now, I believe in you, and you can do this. Summits are by far one of the most powerful ways to quickly grow your list, launch your platform, make more money, and most importantly, make an impact in the world, even if you're just getting started. So don't get caught up in analysis paralysis, because the world needs to hear your message, and there are people who are waiting for you to help them. So just get started, because imperfect action is always better than no action. Thank you, and see you on the next episode.